To the All Sports Podcast, looking to bring you the best and most entertaining podcast about sports there is around. We hope you respect our opinions as we look to respect yours. This podcast is for entertainment and analytical purposes only and made to have fun. Leave us your thoughts of our topics and comments in the comment section below. We hope you will enjoy the podcast, like the videos, and subscribe to the channel. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back in this unprecedented time of COVID-19, but we're here to bring you some content. And today's content is our top 10 best WWE wrestlers of all time. And we hope that you enjoy this video. We hope that you, again, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and let's get into our number 10 spot.
So have you ever heard of playing the game? Number 10 is Triple H, the Cerebral Assassin. So this was kind of tough to come up with, because I still wanted to put him on the list, but he almost got cut. But I think based on what he's done, he deserves to be on the list. So he's basically my gatekeeper, which I might have thrown a couple of, but I'm just going to keep it short. I put him there because of how many championships he's won and how long his career was and what he did for the company, what he's doing now. So yeah, that's pretty much him on that time.
Coming in at my number 10 spot, it may be very controversial, but I believe he's got to be on here. There's no way he can't be. Coming in at number 10 is Mr. Phillip Brooks. That's right, CM Punk, the voice of the voiceless. He had the mic skills. He had the in-ring ability. The thing he didn't have was the opportunity. He had, what, one WWE championship, maybe one or two World Heavyweight Championships. He had that infamous reign that was ended on 434 days, losing at the Rumble to The Rock. I mean, I like the guy. I want to put him higher, but you can't put him higher with these names. And see, I just like the guy. In-ring skills, mic skills. What else do you need in a wrestling?
Do you smell what I'm cooking? Because at the number 9 spot, putting Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. That was cringe, I know, but trying to be creative. Had the best mic skills I've ever seen. Pretty funny at what he always did. He's even a meme to this day, but not trying to get away, trying to get to the wrestling part. 10-time WWE champion. A lot of people didn't like him. Some people say he's one of the best heels of all time, if not the best heel of all time. Had an epic rivalry with Stone Cold Steve Austin, CM Punk, John Cena. Beat one of his idols at WrestleMania that he watched as a kid when he was pretty young. I don't want to say the age because it won't be right, because I'm not quite sure the number. But anyway, that was Hulk Hogan. And he also pretty good in movies, but as a superstar, it's kind of the reason why he's so low on my list, is because you could almost argue that he's a better movie star than he was a wrestler compared to the other people on this list. That might be controversial, but that's just my opinion. And that is my number 9.
Number 9 spot for me. We're going to break the walls down. That's right, with Mr. Chris Jericho. Honestly, I put him up in this list because he also has great mic skills. You love it when he goes into the walls of Jericho, the anticipation of the opponent tapping. You love seeing the code breaker, which is now banned in WWE. It's just you gotta love the guy. Plus, really, what kind of sets this bar for him to put him in this top 10 at the number 9 spot is that infamous beating The Rock and the Rattlesnake in one night to win both titles off of those guys, and nobody else can say that they beat The Rock and Stone Cold in one night, and that's exactly what Chris Jericho did, and that's the highlight of him being in at the number 9 spot.
Okay, so I don't mean to break any hearts, but I only have HBK at number 8. Yeah, because he has top 3 in most WrestleMania losses, and he gets called Mr. WrestleMania. But hey, that's not what this list is about. It's supposed to be praising. And he's mostly known, I say, to the casuals as being in the match with Bret Hart, the infamous time when Vince McMahon broke the fourth wall and told the fans that wrestling was indeed scripted, aka fake, even though some of the injuries are pretty gruesome. But anyway, freaking Shawn Michaels put on some of the greatest matches I've ever seen with The Undertaker. Even though he came up short, I mean, it's kind of hard to beat the greatest streak in one of the greatest streaks in sports history. But he did his best. Had some great tag team runs with Triple H. Won a couple IC titles. Got punched in the face by Mike Tyson. Infamous match with Stone Cold. Had a good couple matches with Undertaker. That's all I'm gonna say about Heartbreak Kid himself. Because as I get deeper into my list, I will explain more about each candidate that I've chosen. But that is my number 8.
At my number 8 spot. And honestly, this list kind of has a little bit of opinion, but this one is all about the facts. This one is Mr. Bruno Sammartino. And this guy has to be on the list. He has the longest reigning championship reign in history. He has held the title for the most days ever. Nobody will ever reach those numbers ever again. And you just cannot combat with that. Bruno Sammartino is a legend. He's a Hall of Famer. And he might have been in an era where it's not like it is today. But the guy has the numbers and statistics over logistics in this one. I think I can agree with. He's not high enough. Obviously he's not well known enough to be put higher. But he's on the list, and he's at my number 8 spot.
Alright, so get ready to do a 5-second pose, because Rated R Superstar is coming in at number 7. Okay, so trying to think of where to start here. I got my words together. I just want to. So he's won the most hardware or championships in WWE history. Made the TLC match teams there's ever been. He freaking speared Mick Foley through a table, a fireman table, at WrestleMania. He was also a part of another tag team with Randy Orton. He won Intercontinental titles and European championships early on in his career. He also won the first Money in the Bank, cashed in on one of the greatest of all time, John Cena. Then he had one of the best sidekicks in WWE and Lita, and he had the infamous sex tape on live TV on Monday Night Raw. Those were the good old days of wrestling when they didn't really follow a script, but hey, not gonna get into that because I might trigger some people, but those were the better days of wrestling. He also had some pretty dang good matches with Jeff Hardy. Trying to think of certain matches I can mention. Always really good in chamber matches. Never thought he would come back because of the neck deal, but he showed everybody up and showed me up. He still got it, in my opinion. But we'll have to see where he goes. But just off the fact of all the work he's done for WWE and winning the most titles, he's got to be on this list, and he probably should be a little higher. But that is my number 7 entry.
Coming in at number 7, I have Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan was in the first WrestleMania, and he was obviously lasted until around WrestleMania 18. And honestly, to me, a good pal says no Hulk Hogan, no Stone Cold, no John Cena. So without Hulk Hogan, who knows where Vince would be right now in the wrestling world? Because he kind of started it off, and his Hulkamaniacs. Hulk Hogan is just an icon. He's a living legend, and he went to TNA and all that. But I mean, you can't not have the guy on this list, and he's going to sit right at number 7. I don't think no higher than that, but that will be my number 7 spot.
So we're heading down to Death Valley for number 6. Talking about the dead man, the legend who is into younger women. Don't take that the wrong way. 7-time WWE champion, 17-time champion and all, infamous for the streak that sadly got stopped by Brock Lesnar. Worst decision in WWE history, but that could be like a whole separate video almost. Freak. Like, I'm just trying to figure out why that was ended, because that was the best thing I watched as a kid. Being that his ring skills, his mic skills, just the way he carried himself. Like, even his, like, nobody ever talks about how his moveset, how he was he had really good hands. I know people say WWE scripted, but daggum, he almost looked like a boxer when he was in the ring. And you can't never forget the famous snake eyes and the big boot, last ride, everything he's done for the company, who he's put over, who he's lost to, who he's beat, and what he's done over all these years. And that's just my thing about The Undertaker. Just longevity is what put him on this list, and maybe some would argue he should be higher, but that is my number 6 on the list.
Coming in at number 6, we're going to break some more hearts with Shawn Michaels, the 3-time WWE champion, the 3-time Intercontinental champion, multiple tag team and other champs. You can't get any better with this guy. He was an entertainer. He's been with the business for God knows how long with Vince. Now he works with the NXT and the younger men. Shawn Michaels, he had the 2 awesome WrestleMania matches with The Undertaker, arguably 2 of the best matches in history. Him and Triple H are in the Generation X are arguably one of the best tag team in history. And Shawn Michaels is just an entertainer, and you can't. Not many people have done what Shawn Michaels has done, and that name is just so legendary that nobody else can take it. You love it when he starts hitting the mat with his boot, getting ready for the sweet chin music, dialing it up, the elbow drop. Shawn Michaels is legendary. He got stopped after WrestleMania 26, of course, and he is landed on my number 6 spot.
What you gonna do, brother, when Hulk Hogan comes for you? Now, see, that was kind of cringe, I admit it, but people get it wrong because they think about what he's done in like the last 5 years with the whole allegations towards the what he said, but I'm not even gonna get into that, because if you've been watching wrestling, you know he even got taken out of the Hall of Fame. But that's not what this video is about. I just want to go ahead and address that, because I'm sure it'll get brought up. It still gets brought up even if you bring up his name. But how iconic this man was, and just how he deserves a second chance, because without him, just like Jonah said, in my mind, it's my opinion, there would be no Stone Cold, there would be no John Cena, there'd be no Roman Reigns, there'd be no Drew McIntyre, nobody without Hulk Hogan, because he freaking carried the dang WWE on his back in the 80s. It's probably why he had so many back surgeries from carrying the WWF through all that, the freaking cocaine epidemic and all that crap. Has some freaking amazing matches with Andre the Giant and King Kong Bundy, Yokozuna, Bret Hart. It's like all those legends. It was really crazy when he beat Andre the Giant. That was a great rivalry. Also when he beat Sergeant Slaughter. That's probably one of the best heels of all time, so that's another great win under his belt. He also has one of the longest reigns. It's like 2,000 days. It's very freaking long. And he also has another long reign. And then never forget when he turned Hollywood and did one of the biggest heel turns in wrestling history when he was at WCW. But that's the inferior company, so I don't know if I should talk about it much. So I could just touch on the fact that when he faced The Rock at WrestleMania, it was one of the greatest matches I've ever seen. I just like the energy it had, especially respecting of how old he was at the time to still put on a good match. But yeah, that's pretty much why he is my number 5, because of how iconic he was. He's basically the reason, one of the biggest reasons this list was able to be made, because of his contributions back in his day. But that is my number 5.
Coming in at my number 5 spot, woo! We have the man, the myth, the legend, Ric Flair, the 16-time champion. And this might be debated here. Why isn't he higher? He's called the GOATs by some of the greatest wrestlers that we've ever seen, but Ric Flair, I love the guy. Great job with what he did in WWE. But the guys that I have ahead of him are better than him, but he is also better than the guys below him, and he is just phenomenal in the ring. He was always a crowd favorite, either whether he was a heel or a babyface. The crowd loved the show every time that Ric Flair came out there, back when he was first started, to when he was with Evolution, to his final match at WrestleMania 24 against Shawn Michaels in his retirement match. He easily has one of the longest careers ever, starting back in 1992 or so, somewhere, or even before that possibly. And Ric Flair, he stood on top of the mountain with the most singles WWE championships in history, until one man came and tied him of it. But Ric Flair sits at the number 5 spot here in my list.
Coming in at number 4, I have the infamous Bruno Sammartino. Some argue he's the GOAT besides Ric Flair, and all the other entrance people are common to argue. And the problem with this for me is I'm only 18 years of age, so it's kind of like ancient history to me. But I just know you have to respect the GOATs of whatever business you're talking about, and you have to read up on your history and just know that you had one of the, I think his longest reign was almost like, I dare to say, like 5 or 6 years long, something like that. So, and he beat everybody that was in the business at the time. He was such a good wrestler and such a good entertainer back in the day, that when he finally lost the belt to, excuse me for saying this guy, I don't know his name, it was some bald guy, but he beat him, and Madison Square Garden was completely silent. They couldn't believe it. They just started throwing food at the ring. They were so shocked and upset that their hero Bruno Sammartino won, and how much he influenced greats like John Cena, Ric Flair, Stone Cold, The Rock, I mean Undertaker. He's influenced everybody. Sadly, he is in heaven now, wrestling up there with the other greats such as Macho Man Randy Savage. But everybody would tell you, while he was still on this earth, they would ask him for advice. And such a wrestling great. Another reason this list is being made because of him, because without him, might not even been a Hulk Hogan. But that's just my theory on how this whole list goes. But that is my entrant for number 4.
Coming in at my number 4 spot, we have the Rattlesnake. Debatably, for some people, the greatest of all time. But for me, he's the greatest in the Attitude Era. It is Mr. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Not many people got to do what Stone Cold did. I don't even think if anybody was able to. He got to go one-on-one and have a straight-up feud with the Boss Man. He got to kick the Boss Man's behind. He got to embarrass the Boss Man. He had great matches with The Rock, of course. He had the infamous heel turn, shaking hands with Vince McMahon at whichever WrestleMania that was. Pretty sure it was 17, maybe. And Stone Cold Stunner, the beer bath, just you name it, he did it. He was the King of the Ring champion, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Austin's 316. He's just a legend. Hall of Famer, of course. And this guy's just one of the greatest. I can't say nothing else about him, but he's going to sit at number 4.
Alright, so coming in, riding on a limousine, flying, is the arguable GOAT, Ric Flair. And it's a little side bit. I keep on doing these, but this one's pretty arguable. He's so damn good that he literally made his daughter's whole career just off of a name. But hey, that's my opinion. It's pretty blunt. It might be harsh, but anyway. So, like my colleague said, he started way back in the day and retired at 57. Had another great match, which I recall, with another great legend, Shawn Michaels. And it's also part of the greatest faction of all time. And yes, it can be debated, but Evolution is better than the Shield, in my opinion. Just of how powerful all of them are in their own singles career. But yeah, he was the brains of the group. Triple H assembled it. He also, which this could be debated too, also a part of the Four Horsemen, which is also seen as another great group, maybe the best damn group there ever was to other people. That influenced the Four Horsewomen. So his influence is across, like, everywhere. Because he even had a song made about him, by the Migos. His freaking in-ring ability, whether he was a babyface or a heel, has the best submission move of all time. Just his promos, very underrated mic skills, because a lot of people nowadays wasn't old enough to watch him in WCW and stuff like that. But he's kind of WCW's first mega star. And then when Vince called him up, it was kind of a shocker. That's why a lot of people know him nowadays, but you can't pass up on that opportunity. But he's just so great at what he does that he won the belt 16 times. And only one other person has done that. And they may break it. But even then, he is still seen as the undisputed GOAT in many's eyes to this day. So that's just a little bit about the greatness of Ric Flair and how great he was in his day. And that is my number 3 on the list.
At my number 3 spot, we have the great one. We have the most electrifying man in all of sports entertainment. We have Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Now, this guy here, as my colleague said, he's now the famous movie star guy. But whenever this guy came out, there was a pop every single time in the crowd. It didn't matter whether it was his early stages, whether it was his prime stages, whether it's right now and he shows up at, say, WrestleMania and hosts WrestleMania 27, which he absolutely ruined in the end, but that's not the point. He has all his millions and millions of Rock fans, and his mic skills, arguably the best. His in-ring moveset, the rock bottom, the people's elbow. Every time you just get excited to watch this man, whether you pull for him or not. He brings the show alive. And he has his awesome catchphrase, the eyebrow raising, trailblazing. You know how it goes. And The Rock, again, he went to the movies, but that doesn't still prevent him from being in my top 3. However, he does still land at the number 3 spot.
By God, coming in at number 2, the arguable GOAT in my opinion, and many people I've seen agrees with this, but it's just so hard to say. Stone Cold Steve Austin, Texas Rattlesnake. I mean, carried the company in the 90s. That's why I had to just take that pause just to think about it. How hard he freaking backpacked the company in the 90s. Rivalry with Vince McMahon. Then that great match at WrestleMania 17. I'm getting it right, maybe. Maybe it's 18. Just know my WrestleMania is. But the one where he turned heel, pretty sure that's 18. Turns heel, joins the Boss, and defeats, as my colleague just said, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And that was crazy. A lot of people hate that, but it was recommended by him because he felt his character was getting dry, which I don't know how that's possible, because every time I watched him I was never bored, unless we're talking about stoning Steve Austin. That's pretty bad. But Stone Cold Steve Austin, now that's pretty damn good. But that's just, I mean, people know how great he was in the ring. WrestleMania 13 match, maybe his greatest match, some would argue. Maybe his match against Shawn Michaels when he won his first WWE Championship. He had a couple of tag team titles with Dude Love, also known as Mick Foley. He also was tag team champs with Triple H and Shawn Michaels. I didn't look this up, I just know this much about him because he's tied for my favorite. You'll see who my favorite is at number 1. But yeah, man, the reason for me as to why he can't be number 1 is I don't feel like I watched enough of his career in real time. You could say that doesn't matter, you can still watch it later, but it's not the same watching it in real life at that certain time when it happened. It's just not the same. So, plus, he had a good moveset, had unprecedented mic skills, but his moveset is not as good as my number 1 candidate. Neither was his career as long because of a certain superstar. But yeah, that's no hate towards that man, but it's his fault. But yeah, pretty much everybody knows he could go down as the GOAT. It just depends on opinion. But I just don't want to keep rambling. That is my number 2. Very tough choice. I almost wanted to do a tie, but that's not what this video is for, so he had to drop in at number 2.
At my number 2 spot, we have the Phenom, the Dead Man, the Undertaker. He has been with the WWE for 30 years. He debuted. You can watch that video of him debuting at Survivor Series. Everybody is terrified. He is absolutely dominating the match all the way up until now, up until WrestleMania, the Boneyard match. This man has done everything for the company. He is with the company. You can't tell me that you watch an Undertaker match and you didn't enjoy it. This man has never had a, quote, bad match to where
Goldberg match.
We're not going to speak of that one because that was in Saudi Arabia, but the Undertaker, they say all good things come to an end, in which that did happen at WrestleMania 30 with the streak. Nobody expected it, but again, with how everything was going on that time, Brock Lesnar winning was not a bigger shock. Just losing the streak maybe was. I put Undertaker ahead of all these guys because he doesn't have the title wins. He doesn't have all that, but he had the streak. The streak is something that no one is ever going to do ever again, no matter who you are. No one ever did it before him. And what, he's like 24-2 at WrestleMania or something? I don't know. Something close to that. And his move set, as my partner said, when he hits that tombstone, you just feel it. You can just see the body shake. His last ride, when he's sitting there playing possum, next thing you know, he's got a Hell's Gate. And I'm just can't believe that I put him up here, but it's a well-deserving spot, and he's going to stick in at number 2.
So as you know, most of these list people do have honorable mentions. Some people do them at different times in the videos, but we agreed for this channel we're going to do it right before the number 1 spot. So some of my honorable mentions are in no particular order: CM Punk, Randy Orton, Eddie Guerrero, Bret Hart, Macho Man could maybe sneak in there. You got Batista, and that's about it for mine. Not thinking about anybody else right at this moment.
My honorable mentions here, I have Randy Orton, Edge, Triple H, and Brock Lesnar. Some of these guys may be deserving of this list, but in my opinion, I don't have a spot for them because these other guys just kind of pop off a little bit more. Their names have a little bit more ring to it than these guys do. Obviously, you think of Brock Lesnar from the infamous Paul Heyman, Randy Orton, and Edge, and obviously the game Triple H. But give these guys no slouch. They could be in this, but as of now, they are just not.
Coming in at number 1, he's just like the New York Yankees. Whether you love him or hate him, you tune in to watch because he's just that damn good. John freaking Cena. Oh, and people say, oh, he's too soft, he's too PG. But damn it, he took what Vince said and he took it right on the chin and he did whether some people call him a yes man. I've heard all that BS. What he's did for this company is unprecedented, pretty much number 1 until he went part-time, which you can't be number 1 when you're part-time. But when he was full-time, he was D-time. He was the it factor. He was the man. Whether it was putting over Sheamus, because you know dang well he's not going to lose to an unexperienced albino named Sheamus. He was just putting him over out of respect. And that's not no hate to Sheamus. I love Sheamus. But just, I mean, what he did, having the match with The Undertaker late, that's another person he put over. Then he put the big dog Roman Reigns in his place when they had this match. I think it's 3 years ago now, maybe only 2. And just all his wins, whether it's his, I think his first minor title win was against Big Show, WrestleMania. Then when he was the Doctor of Thugonomics, he had shoot, I can't even think of his name. But he had that big bodyguard with him. I don't even remember his name. That's not important. And then he's won some tag team titles. I didn't enjoy that. I mean, I kind of enjoyed it. One of my favorite matches that's a good watch is him and Randy Orton versus the entire Raw roster. And that leads me into the good rivals he had, which is Randy Orton, CM Punk, Batista, Edge. Feel like I'm forgetting somebody. Yeah, I might be forgetting somebody. Triple H had a short rivalry with Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels said he was the best wrestler he has ever wrestled with in the ring, even better than Ric Flair. Brock Lesnar, which John Cena pretty much carried those matches because Brock Lesnar's moveset is limited. Even though he did suplex him 16 damn times, I mean, you got to give it to the beast. Maybe he should have been on the list. I forgot him as an honorable mention. But just getting back to John Cena, man, he's just, I don't know, just unprecedented numbers, unprecedented work he's done. You never really hear nothing bad about him. The only bad thing you hear is he gets called like a yes man because he does what Vince says, if that's what you're supposed to do. He almost got cut from the WWE when he had that character at the beginning. His first match was against Kurt Angle with that character in the Ruthless Aggression era. And as soon as he had that match and revamped his character, the rest is history. He has led the PG era, makes good movies. He's pretty much, the man's just good at everything he pretty much does. You just gotta give him the right tools and he'll get it done. And the utmost respect for this man. The most wishes granted by the Make-A-Wish Foundation. He's just like the ultimate man in the company. One of the best I've ever seen do it. I mean, he got his neck broken at SummerSlam 2008 by Batista because he, again, that dude botches moves all the time, but that's a different story. Yeah, man, he fought through that. He fought through all the injuries, all the pain, all the hours of traveling just to make my childhood what it is. I have most of his gear and attire, the wristbands, the headbands. People may make fun of me for that, but can't make fun of me when people watch anime, because that's basically the same thing. But hey, I'm not hating, I'm just saying, can't make fun of me if you watch anime. But that's my number 1, and that's my undisputed greatest of all time candidate, John Cena.
We have finally reached our number 1 spot, and our time is running up, but this man's time is now. It is John Cena, the greatest of all time, the 16-time champion. You think WWE, you think John Cena. Back then, from ruthless aggression to the doctor of thugonomics to Mr. Fruity Pebble to now a man who can suddenly lead an orchestra of crowd of Cena sucks to John Cena's great. I don't know. The man is Superman-esque. He is the franchise player. He is the face of WWE, whether you like it or not. You cannot debate this man. His 16 champions, his 2-time Royal Rumble wins, his 1-time Money in the Bank win, which he screwed up by telling CM Punk when he was going to do that. But it is what it is. He has headlined WrestleMania 5 times now. His most famous being against The Rock, the once in a lifetime, and then the rematch at 29. Of course, he comes on top. This guy does everything for the WWE, as my colleague says. I'll feed off of what he said. Bad grammar, but still. John Cena, he's going to do what Vince McMahon wants. If he sees potential in a guy, he's going to help push that character even when he doesn't seem like it. Hence The Fiend and Bray Wyatt. Hence Roman Reigns. Hence anybody that's in the WWE. This man has done it all, from having a rap battle, from rapping and talking trash to The Rock, from fighting Brock Lesnar when Brock Lesnar returns in 2012. And they face off in a gruesome Extreme Rules match that Cena lands on top of. He's had the great rivalries with, of course, Edge and Orton. That great match, I Quit match at Over the Limit against Batista, forcing Batista to quit until he returns. The feud with CM Punk, when CM Punk dropped the pipe bomb, broke the fourth wall. John Cena was there for that. John Cena changed the U.S. title. He helped push AJ Styles. He's done everything for this company. And honestly, I think he deserves it one last time by getting one more title match, but that's not the point. The point is that he is the greatest of all time. I think anybody can debate it, but he's up there at number 1, tied or ultimately. But that is my number 1 spot. It is the greatest of all time. It is Mr. Never Give Up. It is John Cena.